Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome a man coming in from Nashville, Tennessee. He is, if I say he's got a really interesting background, that would be an understatement. We're going to delve into that. He's got, if you're watching this on video, I was going to say it's not Albert Einstein, but when I first looked at that caricature on your right shoulder there, Scott, it looked like Albert Einstein, but it's not. It's some famous. Who is that, by the way?
It's Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash, yes.
Yeah.
Then you've got a NASA rocket. You've got your books, but you've also got a tape deck. You've got an old 1980s and 1990s tape deck behind you.
That's my boombox, man. That was my identity as a kid. You're only as cool as your boombox, and at least that's what I thought. And therefore, I thought I was cool. At least that's what I thought.
Mate, I was talking to a bloke yesterday, and we were just thinking about back when we were kids and talking to our children today. And you talk about, well, we just put a cassette in the tape deck, and they'd be saying, what the hell is a cassette and what the hell is a tape deck? So I love you've got one of those. Mr. Scott Scovill, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you on.
It's great to be here.
You're the owner of MOO TV, MOO Creative Media, and Center Staging LLC. You've worked with some of the biggest...
Center Staging, but yeah.
Sorry?
I'm a minority owner in Center Staging.
Minority owner, okay. But you started
37.5%.
Okay. But also importantly, you're the author of the recently released book, Tenacious, all about the art of relentlessly pursuing your wildest dreams. Looking forward to this because you've worked with some of the most famous people in the world from a music perspective. And I'd love to delve into some of your experiences. You were just sharing with me before we press record. The last time you came out to Australia, it was about the Elvis experience and the logistics behind that. I'd love to delve into a little bit of your background because this is a sales podcast, yes, but I'm really interested in a lot of the principles behind how you've built such a successful business and continue to drive momentum. Where did it all start for you, Scott? And how did you get into this particular industry where you're obviously creating absolute momentum?
Well, I was a pretty broken kid. I graduated at the very bottom of my class in high school and went on to flunk out of college. A psychologist told me that I had such a pronounced fear of failure that it would be easier for me to grab a red hot stove and hang on than to actually try. Every time I tried to do my homework, I'd fall apart. I'd start sweating. I'd get nervous. My brain would start racing. I couldn't concentrate. I was a wreck. And then around that same time, a girl I was seeing was killed in a car accident. Really a dark time for me. And fear of failure was my thing. And all of a sudden I was flunking out of college. So I was so afraid of failing that I was actually making myself fail. And at this dark time, I was waiting tables at a restaurant in Howard Johnson's, which is a side of the road restaurant. Not a great place to be waiting tables. But an amazing looking tour bus pulled in and I said, I want to wait on them. And it ended up being U2's technical staff. And I'd been very depressed for 3 months, and I was so excited to meet these guys and to realize that you could have a career in music without being a musician. I had so many questions. Finally, they said, hey, kid, just let us invite you to the next show. I took up their offer. I went to the next show. I asked a million questions. The lights went out. The crowd went wild, and 15,000 fans screaming. Peak of Joshua Tree popularity, U2 show. And I stood there in the dark and had a paradigm shift. This is what you're going to do with your life. You love music. You love technology. You love people. Oh my gosh, you could travel around the world bringing music to people. A moment later, my heart sank when I realized to do any of this, I was going to have to try.
Yeah.
In that moment, I made myself a promise that I was going to start trying and never stop trying no matter how much it hurt. I did that. achieved that career. Within 2 years, I was touring with the Rolling Stones.
Wow.
But more importantly, the way I got there was by learning to be tenacious. And I have employed that again and again and again to live a life that I'm proud of, instead of being that kid who was flunking out of college and really ashamed of himself.
Mm. It's a great story, and one of the things I was going to ask you coming out of that was looking back, because it would have been easy at multiple moments to choose to not try for fear of what the ramifications would be, or what if I try this and I'm the laughing stock of the road crew for whatever. Um, what was it? Did you have to go into the depths of your own, I guess, psyche to force yourself to do something despite the fear that may have been attached to it? And when you look back, what was the biggest lesson from that?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't go into why I was like I was, because we all have our problems,
Mm,
but we all have these fears and these doubts and these voices in our head that say you can't. And I was listening to those voices, and I felt like, for one thing, failure was it was death. Failure was the worst. If I failed, it was not survivable to me
mm,
in my mind. And what I learned when I actually started moving and started trying was that not only is failure not death, but it's really where you learn everything. And
mm.
it's a stepping stone that's going to get you across the river. And if you're not failing on your way to a dream, you probably have the wrong dream,
Yeah.
right? Like, if you're not. So I learned all these things, but I'll say in the very beginning, so I found something I loved enough, and I was down enough that I decided I wanted to try. I just had to try. I had
Hmm.
to. But the moment I started trying, I was filled with a different feeling. I went from feeling like this kid who was a loser and flunking out of college and whose life was going to be something way less than what he dreamed. I stopped being that person immediately, and I started being the guy who was trying.
Yeah.
And that was a whole different feeling for me. And I'd oversimplify it. It sounds like in 20 solid seconds, I turned it all around. It was a day-to-day fight. I mean, I found myself in tears at times. At times, I absolutely failed to try. But the important thing was I didn't fail to try for long. I would
Mm.
stew in it, and I would think on it, and I'd be like, no, that's not who you are anymore. And I would get up, scared, and take another step forward, and just keep doing that until sooner or later I made it to where I was wanted to be.
Well, it's an interesting principle, but it's founded in common sense. Is that the dog? He's come in.
It is. It is. I barricaded the door, and my 85-pound dog just headbutted the door open. So if you heard me hesitate for a second there, I was like, he's going to hurt himself. No, he's inside.
He's
He's
inside.
barricaded himself in. Yeah.
Well, I've got a border collie, and we keep her in a sunroom. But if I've got to close the door, she's got the ability of opening the door. She, because we've got a lever that she opens the door from. That is funny. That is funny.
I
So
just texted my sweetheart to please come get the dog.
that's all
Because
right.
now
That's
he's in.
okay.
The door closed behind him, and pretty soon he's going to start barking that he wants to get out. So, anyway, he was very tenacious, and he didn't let a little thing like a door get in between him and
Simple
his dream of
barrier.
getting petted by dad.
That's it.
So,
That's it. So Scott, going back to that time, because you mentioned before the road crew pulled up, and you obviously there was something that drew you to that, and you're asking a heap of questions. So there was this underlying passion, but as you rightly said, you didn't go from zero to hero.
no, I did
So
not.
in the time when you made that decision, you mentioned there was this paradigm shift, but the paradigm shift doesn't equal success instantaneously. It's a process.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how important it was for the support you had around you that as you started to progress? Because part of it potentially, I'm thinking, is the pressure we might put on ourselves to get the perfect result.
Yeah.
So how important was you as an early, I guess, adopter of that industry, having people around you that gave you the encouragement, the support, etc.?
It was massive because, and I was a wreck. I mean, I was a dysfunctional kid. I was pretty broken. And there were people on U2's crew that were like, well, first they're like, look, kid, you're not going to be able to. My whole plan, which is the dumbest plan in the history of dumb plans, was I was going to sneak in every day and work for free. And then instead of sleeping at night, drive all night to the next show, sneak in again, work for free until such time that they felt like they needed me.
Yeah.
And to my credit, well, they immediately said, kid, you're not going to be able to do that. I told them I was going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they didn't say no. They just said, well, that's just not going to work. We've got security. And I said, I understand. I know that. I'm not asking for permission. I just wanted you to know as I'm sneaking past security, I'm not sneaking past you guys because I want you guys to hire me someday. So I'm
Yeah.
just telling you what I'm doing. And they're like, well, bless your heart. That's not going to work. Wrong. I snuck in every day for 5 weeks. I slept in my car. I killed myself. But once I started sneaking in, they were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm exactly what I told you I was going to do. And after a week or so, they started to be like, well, come on over here. Let me show you how to do this. And they started really helping me, taught me how to wrap a cable, taught me how to close a road case, just the really dumb, simple things that you need to know how to do or you look like an idiot when you're backstage. And then little by little, heavier things like, okay, here's how this has to actually work and why. And so I learned a lot in those 5 weeks. And I actually started to think they were going to hire me. They did not.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it was an incredible time. And if it weren't for their support, I don't know if I would have made it through. Well, hell, all they had to do was say, you're not allowed here anymore, kid. Get the hell out of here. And then it would
Yeah.
be over. And they didn't do that.
Yeah.
At 5 weeks, upper management found out about me, and upper management did that. They were like, hey, this kid's going to fall asleep driving one night, crash his car, kill himself, and his parents are going to sue us all, and his death's going to be on your hands. And that ended it. But until then, they were very supportive. And honestly, after that, when they came to me and said, hey, upper management has found out about you, you got to go. They said, what do you want to do in the industry? How can we help you? And one of them, Lawrence Anderson, who's a great friend to this day, I said, I want to do video. Video's brand new. I want to do video. And he said, okay, I'm going to figure something out for you. And, he took my number and I thought, I'm never going to hear from Lawrence again. This
Yeah.
is before cell phones. 2 weeks later, sitting at home, my phone rang. And he goes, hey, there's this thing, this brand new projector that's a nightmare that nobody can figure out how to run. If you knew how to run this, you'd get work. And here's where you go to learn how to do it. And thank you, Lawrence, for caring. And I'd like to think this book is me handing that on to some other people. Like, hey, whoever you are, reader, we haven't met, but I care about you and I want you to have a better life. And let me show you some things.
Yeah. Love that because I'm thinking it would have been easy having gone through, I guess, as you described before that 5 week period, how hard it was for you to try based on the fear of failure. Then
Yeah.
going through that period of time and having, I guess, somebody say, no, this is stopping. And you think, well, now what do I do? But then to have one person who, and this is a key thing for me, it only takes one person.
Yeah.
We think we have to have this massive tribe around us, but there's only one person who can be the difference and makes all the difference. And it's
Yep.
not necessarily giving a hand out, it's potentially a hand up. And
Yes.
and that's all you need. And if you've got that person beside you, then you can take the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's been people like that along my path at a few points. And, thank goodness for them. And I'd like to think I've been that for a few people. And I'm guessing your listeners, some of them are thinking about some of the people that helped them along the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And some of them are thinking about people that they've helped along the way. And man, good on you if you're doing that. That's an awesome way to live.
Well, I think you're 100% right. And as humans, whether we're in business or not, you've got to be able to look for opportunities to help another person without any transaction or expectation of anything that's coming back in return. So the fact that you got Mr. Anderson to help you, I'm sure that there was nothing that he was expecting to come back, but maybe he invested because he saw something in you that was worth investing in.
Yeah. He saw me try. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was almost arrested 3 times. I ended up with walking pneumonia because we were loading out outside. Like it was a death march.
Yeah. And
But yeah,
and so talk a little bit about then that those early years and how the transition and how MOO TV came. So there's probably some stuff that happened in the middle there, but um,
a lot.
you were
Yeah,
mentioning before that for the first 20 years of your business, you probably closed about 95% of the deals that MOO TV had
yep,
and MOO
mm,
Creative.
yep,
Um, how does a person go from not wanting to try the fear of failure to now being in a position to build a very successful business and obviously talk to new potential customers and give an incentive for them to bring you on as their creative directors, service providers, etc.
yeah. Well, it's kind of like I'm on this victory lap, and partly due to a huge crew of amazing people that support me. But I found a dream, and not only got to tour with the Stones and do and tour with a lot of big acts, but now have my own company. But now I know that failing isn't the end of the world. I know that I have failed a dozen times in any given week at something, be it big or small. But I also know that we're really good at what we do and that we love what we do. And I think that's the whole key to closing any sale is just to be able to look someone in the eyes and say, we're going to be great for you because we love it. Like we are excited about being awesome for you and we're
Mm,
going to be. Um, Not in so many words, right? Never come right out and say it, but just when people feel, I think people can tell that we love what we do, and not
mm.
just me, but the people around me. And that's been enough. Long before there were accolades. I mean, we were like I likened us to the Millennium Falcon of the video business. When we started, I had no money. We were just pieced together, used gear and gaffer tape and baling wire and a dream, right? But
Yeah.
somehow we always made it there. Somehow we blew up the Death Star anyway. And that was those days. And now we're a leader in the industry. We are voted best in the industry more often than not, and we have all new gear and not a whole lot of baling wire, but we still have the same dream, like of doing great stuff. And people can tell, people can just tell that when you love what you do and you care about it and you have a confidence about you, the work just happens.
It's interesting, isn't it, that there's a lot of people out there, a lot of organizations that have sales teams, operational teams, and a lot of them treat it as it's a job and it's almost transactional.
Yeah,
And they stand in front or sit in front of a customer or potential customer and they say all the right things, but there's this disconnect between what they're saying and the feeling they're creating. And there's just this, I don't know, disingenuous feeling that you get.
yeah. You see movies where characters are like that, and they're just gross to me, right? And but I don't think we see a ton of that. And in my business, a sale's a big deal. Like when I sell somebody, it means they've committed to touring with us for a year, and honestly, for the rest of their career, probably.
Mm, mm,
Like when we sell somebody, they're probably going to stay with us for the rest of their career,
yeah.
but they're committing to a year.
Mm.
So it's always a big deal. Like it's a lot. And so, in the movie you see the guy hang up and go like, I got another sucker, right? Or whatever. And I'm just like, how could I don't know. I can't fathom that. Like I hang up after getting a new tour and go like, I am so pumped that we're going to be working with this artist. And I don't know. And honestly, if I'm not, I don't try and get the job, you
Well,
know.
and the key for me, the key lesson there, Scott, is we've gone from saying not earlier in your career not wanting to try for fear of failure to now, you know what? I don't have to try because I don't have to convince anybody because I know what I can provide in terms of an experience. And so you're almost removing yourself from the pressure of having to get this particular artist to tour with you
Yep.
because I don't actually need them. I'd love to work with them. And
Yep.
if there's a connection, then we're going to do work together. And that takes pressure off both parties. And it's
Totally.
an easier transaction in that way.
Yeah. Well, in the early days, we were trying to get our first tour,
Yeah.
and now in a good year, we've got 30 something acts that we're working with. And so, it's a big deal for different reasons. It's still a big deal,
Mm.
but it's a big deal because we care about them.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to lose any of these great clients that we have. I want to make sure we keep being the best solution for them. And but it does take the heat off the new ones. Every now and then I'll get really excited about someone and be like, oh, Chris Stapleton. I was told we really weren't getting in the room with Chris Stapleton's people.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let us in the room. And we heard that someone told Chris that I was a fast talker, Chris and his manager, that I was a fast talker from New York, and probably it wasn't right for them. A fast talker from New York would not be right for them. And I am
No.
from New York, but I grew up on a farm milking cows, and no one's ever described me as a fast talker from New York. Probably someone who had an agenda and wanted one of my competitors in, or my competitor. I never heard who said that.
Yeah.
But I finally, in the 11th hour, got in the room with his manager, and I loved him, and he loved me, and we had a great time, and we talked for like an hour, and I knew Chris's production manager, and Chris's production manager was like, God, I so want you to do this. I know you guys will do an amazing job, but man, you're up against it here. And after that meeting, and what a great guy, and that whole team, like Chris Stapleton, oh, and what an artist! I
What
so
a
wanted to
voice.
do it. And I walked out to the parking lot, and the production manager said, "That's it. Like, I don't know what the word is, but I could just tell by the way you guys are talking, we're going to get to work together." And so
Yeah.
Chris has been a client ever since. So, and I love that because I love his music. And
Oh,
that's what got me started. Like, I was so passionate about his music, but now I love it because I love all the people around Chris and Chris.
so, mate, he's got an amazing voice. Like
Oh,
it's amazing how my old man used to love country and western, and you got the Johnny Cash on the back. He used to stand. The old record players. He'd put his headphones on, and he'd be singing away to Johnny Cash and Mel Haggard and Hank Snow. And I said to myself when I was younger, I'm never going to like country music. It's just shocking, right?
right.
Guess what? I only listen to today.
Well, country music today is not the country music of
No,
yesterday. I
no,
do like the old stuff,
yeah,
but I like 80s pop way more than the old stuff. But I love the current country
mm,
a lot of it. I mean,
mm.
it's a whole big, wide genre. So there's stuff at one end that I don't love and isn't for me. But man, a lot of it, I just love what's happening right now with a lot of it. We just put Luke Combs' tour out. I mean, those are great songs delivered with incredible vocals, and it's just great, man. It's great art, man. It is great art, and I love it.
So if you're doing Luke Combs, then potentially when he comes back to Australia, you'll come out to this great country again.
Potentially, yeah, potentially. You'll have to look me up if that happens.
Mm,
Hit me up. Yeah. It's
absolutely.
a long flight, but I love visiting Australia. I love it there.
Mate, we got good coffee and good beer.
Yeah. There's a festival out there I'd like to play sometime. It'd be fun for me to play as an artist. That'd be
Yeah,
fun.
nice, nice. So the tenacious bit. So whether it be the Chris Stapleton situation or the you mentioned before that the first 20 years you were the closer. So one of the questions I always like to ask, particularly founders who have made the transition from founding the company to now handing over the reins, and maybe you working more on the business than rather than in the business today. How hard was it to make that transition? And when you're thinking about replacing yourself, what were some of the things that you were looking for to bring into the organization so that they continue to carry, I guess, the mantra, the principles, the vision that you had
Yeah.
for the business?
Well, I mean, what you brought up is a huge choke point for a lot of businesses. It's why a lot of businesses can't get past a certain size. And I was guilty of not understanding. Um, and honestly, if I never, I was fortunate in that I started having anxiety attacks. So
Wow.
I started my company. There's a lot to this story, but my business partner in my little creative company owned a company like MOO TV, and I ran his Nashville office, and he was killed in a carjacking.
Wow.
I started the current form of MOO TV to help keep some part of him alive. I never dreamed of having a company like that. Well, 4 years later, I wake up and he's still dead. And that was a major thing for me. I was like, I haven't slept in 4 years. and I am so in debt, it's nuts. And I did all this to keep Lee alive. He's gone.
Yeah.
So that was my first big bump. But my second big bump was at the 7 year mark. I started having anxiety attacks, had dizzy spells. I wasn't breathing enough. I'd forget to breathe and get dizzy. And I I was like, people run way bigger companies than this. Why am I falling apart with 40 employees? What's happening?
Yeah.
And I went to a course at Vanderbilt University called Today's CEO, and the required reading was the E Myth. And the entrepreneurial myth is that, for example, if you're good at doing something, you'd be great at running a business in it. And those are two really different skills. Just because you make the most delicious donuts ever doesn't mean you should run Dunkin' Donuts, right? Like, no. But do you have Dunkin' Donuts down there? Anyway,
We
big
do.
donut
We
chain.
do. We do.
But I read that book, and that was the required reading. Before I even got into class, I'm just sitting here going, you idiot. You have been trying to do and touch everything.
Yeah.
And you can't do that anymore. You have to let go. And you might be better at all of it than everybody. But there's 3 reasons for that. One, maybe you were talented. So sure, give you some talent, give you some of that. But 2, you haven't let anyone else do it. So how can they get good at it? Because you haven't let them. And 3, you are the only one doing it, and you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, and it's not getting done as good as it should because you're trying to do anyway. I let go. I took it to heart, and I did the hardest thing I think a business of that size ever has to do, and I think most people fail. Not most, but I think half the businesses fail.
Yeah.
I hired 2 incredibly good people who are great at implementing systems and being organizers, and they live in a very black and white world. This should be this or this.
Yeah.
And it belongs here. And that most entrepreneurs, we live in the gray. We live in a world of possibilities, and we change our mind all the time. And and so I hired 2 of the most solid organizers I've ever met, who I knew would make me a little miserable as they grabbed a hold and put things in order and put systems in place. And they're awesome, and they helped me grow so much. One of them still we're all dear friends still, but one of them still works with me. He runs the steel mill for me. He's president of that. But those 2 guys, Craig and Chuck, they organized it, and I had to let go, and I let them do it. And they started saying, you don't touch this anymore. Like you need to get out of this, and you need to start looking at the big picture. And so you need to decide where we're going as a company, how we're gonna get there with what technology are we buying, like the $1 million purchases, and you need to close deals. And if it's not one of those 3 things, why are you touching it?
Yeah.
And that was huge for me, and that was the key to MOO TV making it to the next level.
Which is another paradigm shift. So it's another revolution in the development, but it's also another revolution in you in terms of your development and your journey on your hero's journey. So if you look back, there's probably a number of different situations that have happened where you've had to make a decision which has required you to be tenacious because you're moving forward with no expectation or no understanding of what's going to happen other than maybe a dream you've got to create something. But when you're confronted with that decision, it would have been really hard, particularly given you've spent so much time building it to what it was at that particular moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm great at being a video director. So can I just sit in the chair and feel great about myself being a video director? No, you have to let somebody else direct the video because you're supposed to be thinking about where our next gig's coming from. Yeah. And then how we're going to do it and all that. And so I was able to do that. There were people in the organization that didn't sit well with that, that struggled with it. And we had to move past some people.
Yeah.
But gratefully, I hired the right guys. I'd known them for years. I trusted them, and I got the hell out of the way. Lead, follower, get out of the way. I say that all the time to people. Yeah. Lead, follower, get out of the way. In this moment, you should lead. Or I'll say, in this moment, you need to follow. Yeah. And I love you, but in this moment, you need to get out of the way. And I say that like I'm talking to people. More than half the time, I'm talking to me. I'll be like, oh,
get out of the way.
I'm going to get out of the way.
It's so true. It's so true. Because there's so many different roles that you as the leader has to play, right? And you need to know what role you need to play in what situation to get not only the best out of the people that are in your organization, but to set your business up for sustainable success moving
Yeah.
forward because you don't want to be the bottleneck. Otherwise, you'll stop that organization from growing any further than it is.
Yeah,
Um,
there's huge choke points and in a business, and that's one that I see so much. I belong to Entrepreneurs Organization, which is an international organization. They have a EO in Sydney as well,
mm,
and several of us get together once a month that own businesses, and I've watched all of us struggle with that at different
yeah,
points and get
yeah,
past it with each
yeah,
other's help. Back to your
yeah,
whole thing about having help.
yeah.
Yep,
So important.
it
Um,
is.
it would be remiss of me though, Scott, to not mention the book because you've got a copy on your right shoulder. You've got a copy right there.
I
I'm
do.
I'm privileged to have a copy myself, which I'm really enjoying reading. What was everybody's got a book in them, right? But why was it this book for you? And in a summary form, what's the background of the book? Is it part playbook? Is it part life story? Is it something to create in terms of legacy? What was it that was
Yep.
driving you to write this?
Yes, all three. So what drove me to a few things. So fun story. The 4 Hour Work Week. That book changed me. I read that book and I thought this is nuts. And lucky for me, I got to be actually got to be friends with Tim Ferriss and spent 4 years in a row at this conference he went to. I also went to and got to spend time with him. We're not best buds. I'm not pretending to have him on speed dial. Haven't talked to him in years, but he
Yeah.
changed my life in that 4 years into knowing him, I said, Dude, did you really do all those crazy things you said you did in your book?" And a moment later, I regretted asking because I was like, you shouldn't ask that, right? And he got quiet, and I went, "Oh no, I really shouldn't have asked that." But then he gave me the best answer. He said, "Scott, the first few chapters were life happening to me.
Yeah.
But once I saw that my company did amazing after I nuked and was off in the UK getting drunk every night for 6 weeks or whatever it was, he goes, I came back to my company was doing great because he got out of the way. And he was probably at that same choke point. But he said, from that moment on, I realized I wanted to run an experiment. And in running that experiment, I made every decision after that to make the experiment as extreme as it could be. And I also knew I was writing a book. And I love that answer. The next morning, I sat straight up in bed and went, son of a gun. I woke up, sat straight up and said, my friend Tim had a great life because he was writing a book. He did not do it the other way around. He did not have a life so good that he had to write about it. He started writing, and I said, I'm going to live my life like I'm writing a book from this moment
Okay.
on. I'm
Yeah.
going to ask myself what would make the next chapter more interesting. And if it won't blow up my life, I'm not going to be as crazy as Tim was, but if it won't blow up my life, I'm going to do it. And I've done that ever since. So, there was that and that mantra, but I always thought I would never write a book. To me, the book was just a metaphor for my life. It was the book
Okay.
that I was going to thumb through when I'm sitting in a rocking chair and don't have the energy I have now, right? And just remember. But MOO TV won Video Company of the Year for the first time many moons ago, and I discovered I had a fear of public speaking. And nowadays, I don't like being afraid of anything. If I figure out I'm afraid of something, I run straight at it.
Yeah.
So I started speaking at colleges. The second one I spoke at, a young lady started sobbing while I was speaking. And it turns out listening to me turned her around from she had quit school that day. That was the last thing she was going to do in college. And she changed her mind, stayed in school, graduated, got a degree in this other thing she wanted to do. Like, I saw the power of speaking and thought, that's awesome. If I've got something to share, I want to do more of that. And I asked a friend of a friend, Cameron Harold, who's one of the guests in my book. My book has
Mm.
many guests. Like, hey, buddy, email. Like, I know you don't know me, but I'd love an hour. I'd love for you to mentor me a little bit on speaking because he's known to be just an incredible speaker.
Yeah.
And we became friends. And that first day, at the end of the day, he said, you need to write a book. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, you're such a storyteller. You need to write a book or three. And
Mm.
I was like, I don't know. And the next day, his publisher called me and said, so I hear we're doing 3 books together. I'm like, no, we're not. And then I got thinking about it, and I was like, no, I'm not writing a book. Um, but what would I write about? And when I thought about what a difference maker tenacity has made in my life, that was it. I was like, well, I would write a book about that. And the moment I thought that's what I have to share, I realized I had to share it. I was like, ah, shit, now I got to write a book.
Yeah.
I got to write a book about tenacity because I think people need to hear about it. I also Googled and saw there weren't books about it.
Yeah.
There's books that called Tenacity that talk about one person's struggle, but there's not a book about tenacity in general. And I thought this is too big to not be talked about.
Mm.
And a little bit of a hard subject to hit, but I think we did it pretty good with my guests. The other thing is, so tenacity's made all the difference in my life. I went from being ashamed of myself to living a life I'm really proud of. But I did that in entertainment. And because of that, I know a lot of famous people.
Yeah.
And they know famous people. So I don't just know musicians, I know some other people because they all hang out together.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that these people might have a photographic memory. They might have pitch perfect hearing. There's athletes who just build muscle and have incredible natural balance, and they have all these gifts. But when you ask all of these people why they made it, none of them talk about their gifts.
Yeah.
They all say, I made it because I didn't give up. And
Mm.
most of them will tell you about someone who is better than them, who
Yeah.
you've never heard of
Yeah.
because they gave up. And so, and more to that point, when I started asking my famous friends if they would be in the book, they were like, I'm like, hey, I'm writing a book. I think it's an important message. Do you agree that tenacity is it for you? And they were all like, hell yeah.
Mm.
So, Alan Jackson, Garth Brooks, Brad Paisley, Dierks Bentley, and Chris Young are the country stars in the book that have written some stories about their tenacity or just chimed in on it at least. For rock stars, Jonathan Cain from Journey writes about the Don't Stop Believin', why he wrote Don't Stop Believin', an anthem
Mm.
for tenacity. Peter
Yeah.
Frampton comes in and talks about, he was the biggest artist in the world and then for 16 years couldn't get arrested. I mean, his star fell so fast and hard, but he's risen again and is
Yeah.
doing incredible things. I have two astronauts in the book. The head of SEAL Team 6, I got Cameron, the entrepreneur, three athletes in the book. Scott Hamilton, a huge Olympic hero for America. Kate Snow, NBC anchor. I got all walks of life that have achieved some level of really something that impresses me. These
Yeah.
people impress me.
Yeah.
And they all agree. Like, tenacity is it. Like, they're there because they didn't give up, not because of their talent. Talent helps, but you got to be tenacious is a requirement. And I thought that's just a story worth talking about.
Oh, it is
And
because
we did.
it's too easy to look at people who and put them up on a pedestal and say, "Man, I wish I was like that." And it reminds me, I mean, I'm a big fan of John Maxwell, and he's written more books on leadership than anybody else, live or dead. And he often recounts a story where a young person came to him after one of his keynotes and said to John, "Hey, I love what you're doing, and I'd love to do what you do." And John, in his normal style, turns around and says, "Well, that's really wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Here's a question for you. Would you be prepared to do what I did in order to do what I do today?"
It's a great
So,
question.
isn't it? And it's a case of there's no such thing as an overnight success, and you would see this in the music industry, right? We see somebody come, and typically, if there's a song that hits the hits of the charts, and there's one song, they're gone the next day.
Yeah,
But there's 20-year, 25-year overnight successes, and that has to take tenacity, the
absolutely.
obstacles. But a lot of people,
Absolutely.
and the marketers out there, they don't want to talk about tenacity. They don't want to talk about you're going to have obstacles. You're going to have to go through challenges. You're going to have grit. They're going to say you can have anything.
Yeah, that was it. I felt like it was a story worth telling. And the hard thing is, it's such a simple concept. How do you write a book about not giving up?
Yeah.
Hey, dummy, keep trying. Don't give up. You're going to fail. Keep going. The end. Want a
Yes.
refund? Want money back on the book? The thing is, though, while it's incredibly simple in concept, it is fiercely hard to do in real life day after day, over and over again. And if it wasn't, we would all be living our dreams. And so the book tries to nudge you down the path that brought me to being more tenacious.
Yeah.
I don't present myself as the most tenacious person in the world. I'm far too dysfunctional for that. But
Mm.
I might have the award for most improved. And it was enough to improve me from shame to great pride. And all these other people, too, that are in the book, you know? I mean, it's the difference maker. And unlike those, like an eidetic memory, if you don't have a photographic memory, you can't study up and get one. But you can be 0% tenacious and go to 100% tenacious
Mm.
by making a decision
Yeah.
and sticking with it. You have to keep making that decision moment after moment after moment. And I thought that was just something worth talking about.
Well, I think it's a phenomenal topic, and and I say this really respectfully, such a basic topic, but so profound at the same time. Because hearing you talk about your career and your experiences, there would have been a number of moments in your career where it would have been easier to give up.
Yeah.
But you had the tenacity to say, I'm going to do one more step. And for some, it is one more step. It's one more phone call. It's one more day. It's one more hour. It's one more breath, right?
Yep.
And that's what you need to focus on. What is the next step? Because
Yep.
sometimes you say, well, I want to achieve this big, hairy, audacious goal, and how the hell am I going to get there? Well, you get there one step at a time.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the inspirational part is you've got stories in the book that people recount challenges that they've experienced. But the lessons there for me is, you know what? We hold these people up in high regard as icons of their industry, but they also have challenges and they've
They
had the
do.
ability to overcome them. So if they can do that, then I can do that.
Yep.
And that's the
Yeah,
key
one of
thing.
my favorite things in the book, it's subtle, but Chris Young, who's a big artist, he's had 14 number ones now. He talks about his first few songs dying and 2 years of just struggle and failing his record label, and nobody was interested. He knew all these DJs. He'd been on every airplane. He'd met them all, and they still wouldn't play his songs. And finally, as his fourth song coming out was that Black Dress song, went to number one. But that was it. The record label told him, if this song doesn't hit, it's over for you. But one of the things I love is he finishes that and he goes, and I'm going to tell you, like, everything I went through to get me there was just the beginning of what I needed to be prepared to be here, because it is so hard to be here. Never mind getting here.
Yeah.
It's just hard. And
Yeah.
so, but that's fine. Like, you could argue that, it's hard to be here where I am right now, but I like where I am,
Yeah.
and I like living a life of effort. It makes
Yeah.
me feel good.
Yeah.
I would rather live a life where I'm not always killing it and I'm occasionally failing, but I'm, as you said, stepping forward. I'm
Yeah.
stepping forward, and little by little, even though there's painful setbacks, I'm climbing the mountain, and there's the dips that hurt, but little by little, wow, look. Hey, look, I'm out of the
Totally.
frame of the video. I'm way up here. But yeah, that's the kind of life I want to live. It makes
I
me
love
feel
that.
good.
Oh, absolutely. It reminds me of a story. I've got a colleague in Australia who spent some time with Richard Branson on Necker Island, and he's associated and spoken with billionaires who have exited their organizations. And he says, Darren, the funny thing about some of these guys, not all of them, is a lot of them, some of them are actually quite miserable because they've got nothing more to. They've done all the exits, they've made all the money, so they probably couldn't spend all their money in this lifetime or the next lifetime, but they're still miserable because they're not in the effort. They don't have
Yep.
something to work towards, which is I found fascinating.
Well, if you look at, chapter 9 and 10 are really deep dives into me. I mean, I go through my PTSD, and I actually go through psychedelic therapy. I have a brush with death. Like, a lot happens. I lose parents. Like, things happen in those two
Mm,
chapters. But the argument there is that you understanding you, and the reason I share all of that struggle in those two chapters, is that you're the star of the movie. If you want
yeah,
your movie to be great, you need for your star, you need to understand your star, so you're writing the right role for him. And I think we need to spend a lot of time looking in the mirror, as I put it in the book, and figuring out who we are, so that we're doing things that we want to do. So, the book says to chase your dreams.
Yeah.
The book does not say to pursue your expectations.
Yeah.
Don't do it because you have to, and don't do it. Do it because you want to. Do it because it's fun. Do it because, why are we doing Luke Combs? Because we have to. Because if we don't, the company's going to fail. Because no, we work with Luke Combs because we love Luke Combs, and we get to work with Luke Combs.
Absolutely.
And that's how I try and approach everything. I think as a young man, I had to beat my fear of failure. I had to. And I'm really proud to say that as an older man, I do things I want to because they make me happy, not because I have to. And I have learned that even if I feel like I have to do something and I can't get there, it's not the end of the world. It's going to be okay.
And think about this, Scott. Luke Combs gets to work with you in your company.
Did he say that?
Well, maybe he did. I'm just putting that into his mind.
Luke's a great human. I love him. I've known him since way before he was a headliner, and I've thought the world of him all along the way, and just a great human. So I'm really glad he's in my life.
Awesome. Hey, mate, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I would love to give people the opportunity to connect with you, learn more about what you do, and tap into the work you're doing, and particularly where they can get access to the book. So for people listening to do that, where's the best place for them to connect?
Tenaciousbook.com is a great place to go. Tenaciousbook.com.
Yep.
ScottScovill.com is an okay place to go. Less on point for the tenacity. Yep. And you're the first person I've talked to in Australia, but I believe if they do a Google search, they will find the book. I believe it's available everywhere. I surely hope so. If not, let me know. We'll figure that out. But Simon & Schuster's doing distribution. So I had friends in Norway say like, man, how do I get a copy of the book? And I'm like, did you search? And they messaged me right back. Shit, it's at my local bookstore. So not a physical copy, but on their website. And they ordered it, and they had it in 2 days. So
there you go. There you go. That is brilliant. Mate, it's an absolute pleasure to spend a little bit of time. And, mate, keep up the great work. And I look forward to seeing you when you come out to Australia with Luke.
Yes, ditto. Absolutely.
Awesome, mate. Appreciate you being on the podcast. Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it, but also if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.